It was supposed to be a quiet June evening in 2015, a gentle Scandinavian summer day where the sun refused to fully set. But inside the farmland town of Blomberg, something was already going wrong. 17-year-old Lisa Holm, cheerful, kind, soft-spoken, was finishing up her shift at a small countryside cafe. No one realized that within minutes she would vanish into a darkness no one knew existed. And what followed would tear a family apart, shake an entire nation, and reveal a predator hiding in plain sight. But what if I told you? The person responsible was closer than anyone ever imagined. Lisa's last evening began like any other. She texted her parents. She cleaned the counter. She gathered her things. The cafe was the kind of place where strangers felt familiar, and locals felt safe wooden walls, a view of the church nearby, and a quiet parking lot that disappeared into fields. Nothing about it warned of danger, nothing hinted at the evil waiting for her outside. Her father expected her home soon. She never stayed out late, she never ignored messages. When 30 minutes passed, then an hour. He felt something cold coil inside him, a feeling no parent ever wants. He called her phone. No answer. He called again. Still nothing. At first, he tried to rationalize it. Maybe her battery died. Maybe she was with a friend. Maybe she left work late. But the more he dialed, the more dread swallowed him whole. And then, without warning, the nightmare began. When he arrived at the cafe, the building sat silent. Lisa's moped was still there, untouched. Her helmet was missing. The silence around the cafe felt wrong, too still, too heavy. Her father called out her name. No answer. He walked around the cafe. Nothing. He checked behind the barn next to the cafe. Nothing. And then he felt something shift inside him, a deep, instinctive terror. Something had happened. Something awful. He called the police. The search began almost immediately. Volunteers poured in from every corner of Sweden. Hundreds walked through forests, checked abandoned buildings, scanned every ditch, barn, shed, and field. Dogs followed trails that went cold too quickly. The air itself felt tense, as if holding its breath. And then, whispers started spreading among the search teams. Someone out here is watching us. People reported an unsettling presence of shadows that didn't belong, creaking sounds inside old barns, and the feeling of being observed. The countryside, once peaceful, suddenly felt hostile. Searchers described hearing distant footsteps that stopped when they turned. A few saw a man watching from a distance, only to vanish into the fields. Meanwhile, Lisa's parents could barely stand. Her mother clung to hope, refusing to break. Her father tried to stay strong but felt every second stretch into torture. They joined searchers, calling her name over and over into the wind. 3 days into the search, volunteers found something, a small object, carefully placed. A glove. Then, a minute later, the other glove, not tossed, not lost, placed, deliberately. Someone wanted them to be found. The police knew then. They were no longer searching for a lost girl. They were tracking someone's trail. They inspected buildings around the cafe more thoroughly. One building stood out, a small, cluttered workshop belonging to a man who lived nearby with his wife and brother. The family kept to themselves. They seemed ordinary, even friendly. But something about the workshop door bothered investigators. It was shut tight and cold to the touch, as if the air inside hadn't moved in days. They obtained a warrant. Inside, the stench hit immediately. Not of decay, Lisa had only been gone a short time. It was the smell of oil, sweat, old wood, and something else. Something metallic. The room was small, claustrophobic, and cluttered with tools hanging from the walls and scattered across the floor. A lone chair sat in the middle, slightly tilted. Police examined every inch, and then they saw it fibers. Tiny, nearly invisible. Fibers that matched the clothing Lisa was wearing. And on the floor, a faint mark, a scuff, a drag. Someone had been in this room with her, And they did not leave willingly. Still, they had no body, no killer, no clear suspect, only a growing sense of dread. But then investigators noticed something else. A rope tied in a particular way, a knot technique used by a specific trade. Few people in the area would know it. Only one man who lived nearby used that knot regularly. And his workshop was the room they were standing in. They brought him in for questioning. The man was calm, too calm. He denied everything. He said he had never seen Lisa, never touched her, never used the workshop the night she disappeared. His wife defended him fiercely. His brother avoided eye contact, but DNA was already being analyzed. Hours later, the results arrived. Lisa's DNA was inside the workshop. So was his. It was over. The mask had slipped. Now the police no longer needed to be cautious. They repeated the search outward from the workshop, following drag marks, following soil disturbances, following instincts sharpened from years on the job. And then, deep in the woods near an abandoned farm structure, officers felt the air shift. They opened the door to a small, dark utility room. There she was. Lisa, hidden away, was left in a cold space far from the cafe. Police didn't reveal details publicly, but they confirmed she had been strangled. The killer had overpowered her inside the workshop, using the rope found earlier. The act was described as brutal, fast, and intentional. He didn't panic. He didn't hesitate. He worked with horrifying efficiency. After strangling her, he moved her body alone, dragging her across the floor, lifting her into a vehicle, and hiding her deep in the countryside. The police later discovered he cleaned the workshop with disturbing precision, wiping surfaces, rearranging tools, and even airing out the room. But he was not as careful as he thought. He left traces behind. He left fibers. He left knots. And he left a trail only guilt could make. When confronted with the evidence, the man cracked not with confession, but with rage. His wife stopped speaking. His brother attempted to distance himself. Investigators later learned the brothers knew something was wrong, but fear and loyalty kept them silent. The community was shattered. Strangers cried. Volunteers mourned. Lisa's parents collapsed into each other, unable to process the horror their daughter faced in her final moments. Her funeral was held shortly after. Hundreds attended. Her coffin, white, simple, heartbreaking, was carried gently down the aisle. Flowers covered the church. Her parents walked behind her, holding hands, barely able to breathe. The town that once felt peaceful now felt forever haunted. And the man who stole her life? He was sentenced to life in prison, the harshest punishment available. He showed no remorse, not once, not at the trial, not at sentencing, not in any interview, but justice held firm. Lisa's story became a reminder that evil can hide in the most ordinary places in a workshop across from a cafe, behind a polite smile, inside a man who blended into everyday life. And tonight, as you listen to this, consider this. If a predator can hide so well in a peaceful Swedish village, how many more hide in the places you think are safe? How many people walk past you every day? How many look ordinary until it's too late? Lisa Holm's case will forever stand as one of Sweden's most haunting tragedies. A story of innocence stolen, a family shattered, and a community forced to confront a darkness lurking far closer than anyone dared to imagine. And now that you know the truth, remember this: the most terrifying monsters are never in the shadows. They're in plain sight.